Hello, a guten Erev Shabbos Kodesh. Today is Erev Shabbos Kodesh, Parshas Beshalach. Today is Yud Bei Shvat. Shabbos is Yud Gimel Shvat. The Yortzeit Hilula of Rebbetzin Sterne Sora, the wife of the fifth Lubavitcher Rebbe, the Rebbe Rashab's Rebbetzin, Rabbonis HaTzitkonis Sterne Sora. It's Shabbos Shira, which is a very, very fundamental, basic Shabbos. It's called Shabbos Shir because it's so special in that we read the Parsha of the Torah, which has the story of Oz Yoshir, the splitting of the Red Sea. Before we speak about the lessons and the thought of the week, we'll first say a prayer. But before that, how are you? I hope everyone is gesund, stark, und freilich, begashmis und beruchnis. I hope everyone is healthy, strong, and happy, physically and spiritually. First, we'll start with a prayer. Interestingly enough, just to realize the importance of this miracle of Kriyas Yamsuf, the splitting of the sea, which is considered one of the greatest miracles that ever happened, and how fundamental it is to Judaism that we say the Oz Yoshir every single day in Shachris. That's 3 times a day. That's how much we have to contemplate it, meditate it, ponder it. That is actually a part of our remembering Yetzias Mitzrayim every day, is remembering this miracle of Kriyas Yamsuf. In addition, today I just want to read a couple of words of our daily evening service, Tilas Arvis, which besides for saying Shema Yisrael at Ma'ariv, we also say the Emes Ve'amunah that is said in Ma'ariv, which is different than the Emes Ve'yatzav, which is said in Shachas. If anybody has had something interesting to tell me about it, please let me know. Part of the Emes Ve'amunah prayer is as follows: Hamay ve'bonav ben Gizer Yamsuf v'sidfeim v'sineim b'seim mistiba v'rovanog v'rosei shivchu ve'edel shmei u'malchusei v'rotzoim kibla aleim Moshe b'nei Yisrael l'chonu shiro b'simcha rabba v'yamru chulam. I'm going to translate the words. Who caused his children to pass through the divided parts of the sea of reeds and drowned their pursuers and their enemies in the deep waters. Then his children beheld his might. They offered praise and thanks to his name, and willingly accepted his sovereignty upon themselves. Moshe and the children of Israel raised their voices in song to you with great joy, and they all proclaimed. So we say in Ma'ariv every night also, besides for Shachas or Yoshir, we say these words, talking about the miracle that happened at the sea. And I want to focus on the words where it says over here, Umalchusei v'ratzoin kibu aleim. There's one aspect where Hashem flexes his muscles. He's the boss. You got to do what I say because I could do what I want anyways. I created the world. I am the ruler. I am the king. That's usually called Kabbalah Seil, accepting the yoke, being a compliant citizen, doing and being a faithful servant, a loyal subject. But over here we're saying, Umalchusei v'ratzoin kibu aleim. What Hashem really wants, the real objective, is that it should come willingly. Not that it's a matter that we have to exercise self-control and self-discipline. It's coming out of joy, because this is who we are. This is the greatest thing that happened to me. This is my liberation. This is my empowerment. This is my transcendence. This is my power. And therefore, right after where it says, it says that it goes hand in hand. When we speak of that we accepting it willingly, then it's b'simcha rabba. We're full of joy. It's not seen as something that's breaking us, but making us. It's not something which is seen as rules and regulations and restrictions, but on the contrary, empowerment. So now, to understand this point, let us discuss something very, very interesting in the Parsha. What I'm going to say now is a sikh of the Rebbe in Chelik Vov, L'kutei Sichos Beshalach. The pasuk says in Kapitel Yud Daled, pasuk Chav Zayin, it speaks about Hashem. Moshe Rabbeinu split the sea. First he split the sea with the staff. Nachshon jumped in, whatever. Anyways, then the pasuk says, Vayet Moshe es yodei al hayom Then Moshe stretched out his hand over the sea. Vayoshav hayom l'fnei boker leisonei. And toward morning, stretched his hand over the sea, and toward morning the water went back to its power. And the Egyptians were fleeing toward it. So all the mighty Egyptian army, all the chariots, the fall of the Egyptian empire, they were drowned because the sea that previously had split for the Yidden, which was an amazing miracle, then returned to its power. It became normal, like regular, and all the Egyptians drowned. So Rashi on the words Leisonai says the Tokvoi Harishin. It went back to its original strength. So Rashi is learning over here that what makes the sea strong, the Tokvoi Harishin, is when it's normal. Okay, that's what Rashi says. Because in other words, if you don't learn deeper, you'd say that when the sea is split, he's broken, he's shattered. That's not the strength of the sea. But when it's leisonei, the tokvei harishin, when it goes back to its original normal activities, then it's its real strength. But there's a famous medrash on these words, and the Balaturim also brings it down, that what does it mean, leisonei? To its strength, to its power? The medrash says, leisonei l'tnoi harishin. It went back to its original stipulation, to its precondition. And we say that the oisius, the words leisonoi, is the same words as l'tnoiv. So over here, it seems to be that what the Medrash is saying is a bit like the opposite how you might learn Pshat and Rashi. And that's actually what we have to understand over here. Why, if we're saying that the sea had to split, where do we learn out leisonei to its power when it returned? If it means to its condition, then it shouldn't be on the words where it says that the sun returned. It should say it split. What was the condition? The condition was that when the time is going to come, that the Yidden are going to be escaping from Egypt, and they're going to come to the sea, and the sea is going to stand in your way. So this Hashem made a condition with the sea that the sea should split. So you'd think that if we want to learn out the idea that it fulfilled its condition, when would the Torah tell us this? It would tell it to us on a word that will represent the splitting. Not that it came back to its original strength, when it returned to its normal condition as flowing water. So that's one question. And then we have a very basic question. What is going on over here? Why does Hashem have to make a condition? But we'll connect it with another question. Usually when you make a condition, there's terms and conditions. Yeah, we say you're going to enter a business deal, or you're going to do something now. So you have to make terms and conditions. Why are you making terms and conditions? So you shouldn't fall into a trap. You know, like they say, read the contract. Did you read the contract? Did you understand it? And you signed on it. Don't sign until you understand every single thing. So usually in situations, business deals, whatever it is, anything really serious involves terms and conditions. And why are they the terms and conditions? To forewarn that something negative shouldn't happen to you. But first of all, the Eibishter is the ruler, the Eibishter is the king, the Eibishter can do as he pleases. The Eibishter, Hashem, is infinite. So what's he worried about that he has to make terms and conditions? It comes time for the sea to split, Hashem splits the sea. No problem. There's some contemporary over here that like equals over here. That Hashem comes along to the sea and say, you know what? Could you please split for the Jews? What's the sea? The Eibishter is the only true reality. The Eibishter is the only existence. And he's infinite, etc., etc. And going back to the point, why? Why does he have to make a split? Number one, like, what are we gaining? What's the profit? What's the idea over here? What's the concept? And for two reasons, it's not like normal terms and conditions. By normal cases, number one, like we just said, there's a term and condition. Number one, to secure your rights, to make sure that you're not going to fall into something that's problematic because you're limited. There could be a situation where you get taken advantage of. And therefore, to prevent such a thing, you have to make terms and conditions. Over here, the Eibishter could do anything. The Eibishter is unlimited. So why does he have to make the conditions in the first place? And two, what is he worried about? And what is he gaining? Now, to understand this, the Rebbe teaches us a tremendous, tremendous lesson about the world and the nature of the world's existence. Which, by the way, this Medrash, when it mentions that the Eibishter made a condition with the sea, the Medrash says that the Eibishter made a condition with the entire creation. The sun is getting in the way over here. I hope it's not a problem. Anyways, so the Rebbe explains as follows. There's two ways to look at the world. There's one way to look at the world. Hashem created a world. He made an existence. This existence will do what Hashem wants when Hashem will flex his muscles. That's one way to look at the world. That means the world is an existence, the world is a definition, the world is a character, the world is a nature, which is kaviyachol, outside of godliness. Then there's another way to look at the world. The entire definition, the true nature of the world, as from the outset, from its inception, in its DNA code, is that the world is nothing but Bereishis, B'shul Yisrael, B'shul HaTorah. So this is the question. Is the godliness superimposed on the world and unnatural? Or on the contrary, the world itself, in its DNA, as it was made as a precondition, what is the world? The world is nothing but an instrument and a tool of Hashem. And this is what Rashi says in the beginning of the Torah, Bereishis, B'shvil Yisrael, U'b'shvil HaTorah. What is the world? The world in its first place, at its inception, is for Yisrael and Torah. And that's why the Eibishter makes the condition. If there wouldn't be a condition, then it would be a situation where there's a God, he created a world, the godliness is not in the DNA of the world itself. It's just that God, who's all-powerful and has no limits, could do as he wishes when he wishes. So therefore, he wants to split the sea. He could split the sea. In other words, God could override the natural order because he's more powerful. That's if there wouldn't be a condition. But if we say that it's a condition, so then that means that in the beginning, the world agrees because this is who I am. This is my true definition. And this gets back to what we just mentioned before as part of the Ma'ariv prayer when we say, U'malchusei b'ratzon kiba aleim. How do we know when something is really you? When this is who you are. By itself. Not because first you were one sort of thing and then later on something was forced upon you. But it's there because that's who you are. And therefore that has to come willingly. It's not that there's a tension and there's a friction and there's a split. There's you on one level which disagrees and doesn't go along with it. It's just that what can you do? You're forced. That means it's not really you. Only when it's a malchusei b'ratzon kiba aleim that you agreed and it's from it the inception, then it's truly you. So in other words, you could say it like this. We say a known rule that how do you know when something is you or not? Like, for example, you're a human being. A person's a human being. Does the nose make you human? Does an eyeball make you human? And the answer to know whether something defines you or not is very simple. Whether you can live without it or not. If there could be a human being that Rahman al-San does not have an eye, that means that the definition of a human being is not if he has an eye or not. And the same thing about a specific limb. If he's a Baal Mum, Hashem Yirachem, nicht auf Kneten gedacht. That means that the definition of a human being is not necessarily dependent on this limb or not. But if someone cannot be a human being without a certain thing, then that very thing, which you cannot live without, which you cannot exist without, you cannot be without, That's what defines you. So it's the same thing over here. Only when the Yam, from its first Tanai Hisna Kodesh Baruch Hu Ma'aseh Bereishis, from before it's created, at its point of inception, it's written into the DNA that I am B'Shul Yisrael, Tanai Hisna Kodesh Baruch Hu Ma'aseh Bereishis. I cannot exist without that. That's my DNA. That's who I am. If we take that out, I am not. So therefore, since the sea cannot exist without that, and it's inscribed in the DNA of the sea, so therefore that is the essence of the sea. What is the essence of the sea? Bereishis b'shvil Yisrael b'shvil HaTorah. Now this is the true strength of the sea. Why? We know Machshavten she Yisrael kodma l'chol dover. The existence of the Jewish people, Yisrael eiraisa v'kutshavrichu kol echad. They are atzmiyim. They're like Hashem. Netzach Yisrael. Ani avai Elosh. There's an aspect of the Jewish nation because they have a chelik elikamim al mamish, that they are the most powerful substance being. Chelik beirei, which is in the world, is in Am Yisrael. When does the world have a connection to this inyan of mechuyev hametzias, absolute reality, absolute existence? Only when it attaches itself to Yisrael and to Torah and to the Eibishter. If the world is a world that doesn't have this condition preconceived in its genesis, so then the world is an Efshari HaMetzias. The Eibishter could decide there should be a world, could decide there should not be a world. There's nothing in the world inherent that's God Himself. But when the world is used as an instrument of Hashem to be involved with His people and with His Torah, so then the world gains a certain element, a certain aspect of nitzchiyus, which it doesn't have mitzad gidrei abriya. The rule is that anything that's part of creation is limited. But when you're associated with something which is Hashem Himself, the essence, and now's not the time to explain it, then you become more powerful. So now we answered all the questions. We understand why the Eibishter is making the condition. What's the nafkamina? What do we gain? It changes the definition of the world. And now we understand why in the same word, litanoi and leisonei, we learn it out not in the fact that we say stam, that the sea split, and then that's how we see there was a condition. No, we want to say by its splitting, that reflects and teaches us that that's the true leisonoi. When the sea splits and fulfills its condition, when it fulfills it, He did it, and then it goes back to its normal state, but then we see the full story. By its fulfillment of the condition that it made, then it reveals the true leisoni, the true strength of what the sea is and what the world is. Because now we see the profundity and the depth of the true nature of the world as something where godliness is not an additive and it's not superimposed, but the very nature and the very definition of the world itself. And here, this connection this week was Yud Shvat, the day of Istalkus of the previous Rebbe, and the day that the Rebbe took on the leadership of the Chabad movement. One of the most famous talks of the Rebbe on Yud Shvat was a lesson the Rebbe said that we learn from the Hasidic discourse. There was a verse that the previous Rebbe spoke about. Now's not the time to get into it. There's a Hasidic discourse. It starts with the verse, Bosi Legani, God proclaims, I came to my garden. At one of the times there was a great revelation of godliness in the world, he says, I came to my garden. Hello, I came to my garden. And the Rebbe says over here, the previous Rebbe, by elaborating on this verse, was teaching us a profound lesson in life. There's two attitudes to life, and this is the way the Rebbe said it, and the Rebbe was very emphatic on this. There's one approach to life where people look at the world and life on this planet Earth as a jungle. That's what the Rebbe used, the term jungle. It's a dog-eat-dog world. How am I going to survive? By barking louder, by biting stronger, by sharpening my teeth. So that's one way to look at the world. It's a jungle. And predators are the ones that gain the upper position. But there's another way to look at the world. The world's not a jungle. The world's a garden. It's beautiful. It's amazing. There's goodness and kindness all around. We just have to reveal it. We just have to tap into it. And the Rebbe said that Maimonides already in this book, the Moreh Nevuchim, speaks about the subject, and he elaborates the difference of approach if you go with this way or the other way. By the way, now I don't want to get into it, but I've had many discussions with people that are non-observant, secular people. And when you speak to them about life and the purpose of life, many of them have a very, very sad, tragic, harsh definition about life. Life's a bleep, 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 and then you die. And they even quote like certain, philosophies that have this approach. Life is not meant to be enjoyed. Life is not meant, without emotion. There's all these different schools of thought that are contrary to Torah. And I'm looking and hearing these ideas, and I'm thinking to myself, how sad and tragic it is for a person to live through his long life on planet Earth thinking that life's a bleep bleep and then you die. It's a cruel, harsh world where only if you're on God every second looking over your shoulder, then will you survive. Then there's another way. There's a God. He created a world. He gave it a purpose. It's a garden. Our mission is to reveal the garden. Now, does that mean that there's no harsh things that happen in the world? It's spoken about in Torah. The world is molei klippos. It's filled with things that are, in a certain sense, sometimes obstacles. But we know that they're really there as a challenge. And we're meant to try to transcend it and overcome it. And then that's how we reveal the true purpose of the world. As we're discussing today, that there's a condition in the world to go along with Hashem. In those instances where there was a Stalin or a Hitler or a Paroi, Yimach Shemoy, it makes it very difficult. But that doesn't change the nature of the world. We have to always remember that this is the true nature and the true definition of the world as a garden. And we have to do everything within our power to reveal that and to tap into it. And that's the true nature of the world. The Rebbe once spoke by a Farbrengen that I was there, and he said, since the world is takel be'raiso bara alma, Hashem looked into Torah and created the world. So when you look at something and you don't see it, excuse me for a second, l'chaim. If you define something in the world not according to the definition of the Torah, so then it's not only that you're defining the world as something which is against Hashem's will necessarily, it's just that it's the wrong definition. It's not what this thing is. Why? Because such a thing as you're defining it was never created. Since it's takel be'raiso bara alma, Hashem looked into the Torah and created the world. So the definition, the true nature and the character of the world is according to the way the DNA of the Torah code was put into the world. So that's the connection to Yud Shvat. And this is the connection to Yud Gimel Shvat. The Rebbe Steiner passed away on a Shabbos Shira. That morning she got up and she said, it's a Shabbos Shira. Davening God anders. That day when she got up in the morning, she said, it's Shabbos Shira. We have to pray completely differently. And obviously she meant with a song. Sing us a song to Hashem. And this is the same idea. If you're living your life, that you see godliness is superimposed, and it's something we have to go against the grain, and there's something that could be truly an obstacle, then it's very difficult to sing a song. But if you see the world, to start with, it's not a jungle that you have to tame, but it's a garden, so then you're able to sing. You're in the garden of Hashem. You're in the orchard. It's beautiful. There's fruit. It's luxurious. It's grand. It's regal. It's royal. It's majestic. It's marabu masech Hashem. Magodlu masech Hashem. And this is obviously the connection to Tu B'Shvat is Monday. The 15th of Shvat is the Rosh Hashanah for trees. And it's explained in Hasidic discourses that this is the Yom Tov where we celebrate Gishmak, enjoyment in serving Hashem. Like we said before, there's an idea of Kabbalah Sale where we accept upon ourselves rulership. I'll be a compliant citizen, reporting for duty. That's one thing. Like we said, self-discipline, self-control. But then there's another thing, that Malchusei Berotzein, it's coming out of your Gishmak. Umalchusei Berotzein, Kiba Alei Meishem Yisrael, Chonu Shiro, B'Simcha Rabbo, V'Yamru Chulam. Tu B'Shvat is a day where it's coming with Simcha and with Shira. So therefore we see the connection between everything. And this is what we have to stress today. But before we get to that, I want to talk about another subject, which is the rage in the world. And I don't want to elaborate, so don't chap me by a word. But this is also a big discussion about climate change and the world. You have to realize that according to the Torah, according to Judaism, we always were about the environment. But what's the environment? I'm just giving an example, and I don't want to be taken to court for it. I want to bring out a different sort of perspective. And I want something to think about and ask your local rabbi. If, for example, there was a species, but now these species became extinct, theoretically. But why? Because it was elevated and it served mankind, and then this mankind sang a song to Hashem, so then that meant that the world reached its purpose. Just like the sea in its DNA is crying out, I want to split for the Jews. I want to split for the Yidden. That's not my weakness. That's my strength. Because now I'm connected to something of infinity. Something which is invincible. Hashem. The same thing is over here. When you have a lamb, and the lamb gets killed, slaughtered. It doesn't get killed and slaughtered. We don't believe in destruction for the purpose of destruction. God forbid. That's called hashchasa. That's called baltashkis. There's actually a prohibition from the Torah to do that. But the answer is, when you use the food and you elevate it, and it's used to serve God, so then that's something constructive, and it was channeled and elevated for Hashem. So therefore, we have to realize that Torah, the Shulchan Aruch, the whole Judaism is about making the world a better place. Obviously, being conscious of things like climate change, for example, let's say, but all channeled in the right direction, that the ultimate is how everything is used as a benefit for mankind. That's why it's there. Like the Medrash says, "L'nivra zav el b'shvil binyan beis hamikdash." Why is the gold? And this is just a prime example. Gold was created for the Beis Hamikdash. But that's an astonishing statement. Gold was used for the sin of the Chet HaEgel, the worst sin in Judaism. And then there was the gold rushes that created people to commit murder. It caused people to commit murder, greed. How many people were killed because of gold? So how can we say, L'nivra zav el b'shvil binyan beis hamikdash? But that's what you have to realize. The true definition of gold is to be used and channeled in a positive way. Some people use it in a perverted, twisted way. They made the wrong choice, but it doesn't change what the definition of gold is. And the same thing is true in general about everything in the world. This is why Chassidus and the Rebbe emphasized in the last couple of years, we see the advancements of technology, whatever it is, radio, media, television, film, whatever it is. The Rebbe always stressed that these things should be channeled and used for Hashem. That they shouldn't be viewed as obstacles. On the contrary, they should be used as tools that will bring out godliness in a more powerful way. Just like Kriyas Yamsuf, the same idea. The Eibusher should help that we should see in a revealed way, by understanding the true nature of the world, that it's all to bring out the godliness, that we should utilize all of the technology and all of the advancements and science that's in the world to show how Hashem is the true oneness of all of existence, and then through that the world becomes healthier, leisoni to its power. A freiliche, guten Shabbos, and a happy Tu B'Shvat, posting from my home in Melbourne. Be'ez Hashem Yisbarach, your man in Melbourne.